Hey, this is Adasa, and this is my lesson on how to solve two-step equations. The student that I focused on is in 7th grade math and is taking 7th grade algebra. So she had difficulties and misunderstandings in adding and subtracting integers, the distributive property, and inverse operations. The first box on the left, examples adding and subtracting integers, complications. This box right here, examples, issues with the inverse operations, and the last box talks about the distributive property. For my plan of action, I had the students with a worksheet and I had a presentation for them. This presentation had them building up from the knowledge they knew, and it also had reminders and emphasis. Something that I had emphasis on was this quote right here. It says, "Our goal is to find what makes the statement true," where the teachers were teaching that our goal is to isolate the variable, but didn't understand why we needed to do that. And then secondly, for my manipulatives, I had counting chips. This was so that students can understand that what you do to one side, you do to the other. So we'll go ahead and begin the analysis of the student work. We're going to go ahead and look at the inverse operations. With the inverse operations, we do see that she still struggles with specifically inverse operations on multiplication and division. She is okay with inverse operations on addition and subtraction. So in the book on pages 196 and 163, the thing that made me think about inverse operations was in the subtraction section. It talks about think addition, where if you think 13 minus 8 equals blank, instead of thinking subtraction, think addition. What plus 8 equals 13, which would help understand why we do the opposite of what it's doing to the variable. So for instance, 8 plus blank equals 13, we would do the opposite. 13 minus 8 equals blank. Moving on to the distributive property, we see here that she has her understanding of what to do is to first subtract the item without the variable. So that's why, well, she didn't subtract, she actually added, which shows another mistake with the inverse operation. But she first did something in a parentheses when you're supposed to distribute the 8. So on page 175, it talked about just going over the properties of multiplication and division, and specifically this would be the distributive property. And so it just talks about breaking it up, and you would teach them by making a cube and then breaking up to help them understand why you can do this, and then interlock it with what they just learned. So here is part 2 of analysis of student work, and this is specifically on adding and subtracting integers. In this example, she does get the answer incorrect, but it's not because of the combination of integers. She actually does do it correctly, and I'll circle it right here when she does it. She did -1 plus, actually -1 minus -7 and got -8, which is correct. The only thing that she had a mistake on was forgetting the negative sign. But on page 619 and 623 talks about operations with positive and negative numbers. The process that the teacher taught her was this elevator process, where it puts you in the situation where you're in the lobby of a hotel, so that's 0. And you go up 3 floors, so that's +3. And you go down 8 floors, so that'd be 0 plus 3 minus 8. Or you could do plus -8. And it helps the students visualize it a little bit more, and I think that's what she did in this circumstance. The next steps that I would make for the student is, the first thing is just to go over foundational skills. She is actually, what I've noticed, okay with it. She can combine integers, she can distribute, and she does understand the inverse operations. But when it came to combining all three, I think that's when she had issues. But I think just going over some foundational issues and then putting them on top of each other and only doing like 2 at once rather than 3 at once, I think would help her a lot. And then lastly, just practice, and not practice for perfection, but practice to make permanent. So I do think that she would have to work with someone who does know what's going on. And until she gets the hang of it and understands it more and asks the question that she needs, then she'll be able to get it down. Thanks for watching.